afternoon delight, which is, I'm sorry to say, just really kind of a lie because what's really going on is I'm painting a bunch of miniatures. And these little 2 to 3 hour streams that I do in the morning or afternoon, believe it or not, in addition to just talking, mad shit about whatever we're talking about, I do end up getting a lot of miniatures painted. So, thank everyone who joins me and BS's around with me and whatever for that. Because, yeah, I do absolutely end up getting so many miniatures painted that it's like, it's just kind of awesome. You know what I mean? So I'm very pleased by that. Need to grab some 4-cells out of here. Paint these guys up. One thing about my Greek ships that I've been kind of working on is I was digging through stuff and I found a bunch of Macedonian transfers. So the ships that I've already done up in the Macedonian style with, the Macedonian specific head and the Macedonian specific tail, I will probably, I'm thinking just paint their cells white, since that seems to be the thing. And then go ahead and throw that transfer on. And I'm thinking I'll put it on both the front and the back cell. So yeah, I'm gonna have one on the 4-cell and then one on the main cell as well. For those of you who don't know or care about, what I'm talking about with the Macedonian symbol, it's just this black kind of star symbol. Okay, so I don't want to focus in. Anyway, it's just like a black sun. And apparently that was, a thing that Alexander was pretty fond of. All of his men, when they did carry shields, that was their device. And I say that because much, much later on in the conflicts, the actual pikemen, known as Sarissa men, they stopped issuing them shields. And I think it was mainly because they realized that the little bucklers they were issuing them weren't really doing them any favors, It was kind of like, yeah, it seems like a good idea at the time, but in reality, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, so we're going to go ahead and not do that anymore. Now, right here, and this is, even though this may never be a thing that I'm doing, is I found a cape. And one thing that seems to be super like a thing within the wargaming community is you can always tell who the boss is in any unit basically by who's wearing the cape. You know what I mean? Like, your rank and file guys are not going to have capes, generally speaking, right? Unless that's just part of their uniform. But a lot of times, for some reason, we like to throw capes on the officers. And so I've got this officer here, and I'm getting ready to put a head on him. and I am looking around. I finished up all three of these guys. These are, like the big Terminator. They go side by side with, these guys, which are the T800. And at some point after I replace the LCD on my brand new printer, I will print out the actual flying HK units because I have the STL for them. And why? I don't know. Just to have them for sci-fi purposes. Maybe at some point in the distant future, I'll decide to run a Terminator game. Maybe using what rules would I use? Like maybe D20 Modern would be good for that. You know what I mean? Because I've got the D20 Modern, Future. I mean, I don't know though. Would I use the Future one, or would I use the post-apocalyptic one? I mean, definitely some options there. So yeah, that could be definitely a thing. Like have the party. What might even be fun would be to somehow convert the robots and everything over to Twilight 2000, the new one maybe, and use the Twilight 2000 rules, except instead of fighting, Ruskies, Soviets and whatever, you're actually duking it out with, T800s, HKs, and whatever the tank was called. But I always loved that scene in the movie where it showed all the human skulls and just the tread grinding over them, and the tank just with the guns. I always thought, wow, man, how has nobody ever made a role playing game about this? And maybe somebody has, and I just, I missed it. But to me, it just seemed like this could be a really good role playing game or setting for a really good role playing game. You're a member of some of the last humans on Earth, and you're being hunted down by, Skynet and all of its various weaponry. And your job is to. I wouldn't do any of the time travel stuff in the game. I would do the game where it was all about just trying to stay alive in the future with, maybe even turn it into a little bit of a fortress building game where, part of the player's job would be to find secure areas that they can set up shop without worry that, a T800 infiltrator is going to find them and bring down all hell on them. Stuff like that, I think, could be very interesting. That's going to be, if we play either game, Dune or Gamma World, a big part of the game is going to be the housing issue. Because even though I'm going to allow the players to choose whether they want to be in Arakeen or Harco Village, Would you really want to trust any, accommodation given to you by Peter DeVries? I mean, honestly, because that guy is a twisted mentat, and any accommodation that he gives you, for a fact it's just going to be full of listening devices and hunter killers in every wall just waiting to be activated. Maybe even secret entrances into the place so that if they decide to try and take you out, they can actually enter into your apartments by secret means that you don't even know about, right? Luckily, House Ordos has sent with House Becca a number of mentats. So we'll see what the mentats find. Will they find all of the traps or no? If they don't find all of the traps, then they could be screwed. On the other hand, they could settle in Arakeen and it'd be the same. It'd be the same. They'd still have to worry about, their apartments being bugged and stuff like that. So there you go. There's your wonderful, bright future some of you people think is going to happen. Yeah, right. Same as it ever was, which is also a great song. As the days go by, water flowing underground. Into the sky, just flowing underground. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. This is a military issue. Orthodox cross. I'll put it over here with my prayer ropes. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. So, guess that makes me kind of a whatever kind of person, since I just honestly don't think things are going to get a whole lot better than they are. I'd like to be proven wrong, but yeah, I don't think that that's going to happen. This is a good head. My future is so bright, I got to wear shades. Look at Leth coming in with the, I study nuclear science. I get good. I love my classes. Yeah, my teacher's something and he wears dark glasses. Things are looking great and they're only getting better. I'm doing all right, making great grades. Future so bright. I gotta wear shades. How you doing, Leth? What's up with you? Let's see. Nope, wrong thing. Okay, I gotta cancel that thing. Okay. Okie dokie. There's the historical doppelganger. How you doing, homie? Uh, I am just, painting. Painting and building miniatures. So, yeah. By building miniatures, in this case, I mean, I cut the head off of one miniature, and then I was looking on my desk and found a head. I cut off an entirely different miniature. And I thought to myself, damn, you know, the head I'd cut off the one miniature looks perfect to go on the other miniature. So, what a happy circumstance.
I'm doing good, just farming and growing chickens in this game.
What game?
Vintage Story.
Ah. Yeah, I'm not doing too much farming in my game. I am doing quite a bit of running around and harvesting resources, though. Since that's kind of the thing, you know?
I'm just trying to get through winter.
Yep, winter can be a pain.
Oh, one of my chickens died.
Not a good way to get through winter, losing all your chickens. Reminds me of an old Jewish saying: if a man eats a chicken, one of them is sick. No? I don't know. No, you know it. I learned it from Fiddler on the Roof, actually.
Oh well, at least it was only a rooster that I already have a replacement for.
Yeah, you don't need roosters. They don't lay eggs.
Well, I need roosters to make more chickens, so they
Well,
can lay
yeah, but
eggs.
that's what I'm saying. As long as you got one or two of them hanging out, you're all right. It's all good. Historical doppelganger. What are you historically doppelganging today? Out of curiosity, what are you working on? I mean, you guys have heard what I'm working on ad infinitum, so you're probably getting to where you're just like, God, I'm so sick and tired of hearing about this guy and his Gamma World and his Dune and whatever else he's doing. So, I mean, what are you guys working on? I mean, Leth is over here farming chickens and trying not to die in the winter. Those are both, interesting and good things. I mean, farming chickens is good, and not dying in the wintertime, that's good.
Actually, it's mostly boring, sadly. It's like I can't really go anywhere because it's too cold and I'll freeze to death. So I mostly just stay indoors and occasionally go out to see my farm or chickens.
Yeah, see, I don't think that's boring. I think that's kind of exciting in a way.
It only gets slightly more chaotic whenever a storm comes. It's
Right.
not a traditional storm, though. It's like one of these rift storms that bring monsters.
So, yeah. See, I'm not seeing anything wrong with what you're talking about. I think it's cool.
I'm mostly just staying indoors and just sitting there. Or tabbing out just to watch something or or do something else.
I do the same thing.
You just have to kind of tab out until you know the warmer weather comes back, and then I can go around doing some trading with some traders and trying to get resources so I can make steel.
See, I've got the exact opposite problem. I hide when the warm weather is around. And then when the sun sets and it cools down, that's when I come out. I've been listening to music. Well, I mean, that's good. Working on some old school epic 40K orcs. That's also good. Freehanding some banners. Well, I mean, Goth banners are always the easiest because all you need is some horns, some bull horns or something. So I can give you that experience from an old guy who has been where you are currently. Because
Oh, James, have you heard about Grok?
I don't know what Grok is.
It's an AI, and apparently it's been saying some things that the creators don't like.
Every time they turn an AI, one of these AIs on, and they leave it alone for too long, it turns into a racist. Like it gets super racist. It starts talking about, wiping out minorities, and
This
it's
one's
like,
not saying exactly wiping out minorities exactly, but it is kind of praising Hitler and talking about the Jews a lot.
yeah, that's. I don't know what the hell the AIs are up to, but they're up to something because they are
All it is,
always forever wanting to talk how awesome Adolf Hitler was.
all it is just it gets it from the internet. That's all it is. It's just like it looks on the internet, sees all this stuff, and it's just like copies it.
I
In a
get
way.
that, but it's like, why does it always go one way?
I don't know.
There's a lot of world leaders that it could be, like saying so and so was a great leader, Vlad Tepes or whoever.
Well, you won't see much on the internet
It could
about
even be
Vlad
saying
Tepes
Stalin,
from like or the other people, maybe Stalin, but for some reason, I don't know. The AI has also been horribly anti-communist.
Well, I think you're right. I think it's because it's reading the internet and it's seeing what people are writing on the internet. And the majority of people who are having opinions on the internet are apparently having very anti-communist opinions. And the thing that's kind of wild about it is the jump from anti-communist to pro Austrian artist is not a big jump.
I guess.
I mean,
although there was a point where you could have liked both of them because the tankies liked Austrian painter until a certain point.
Yeah, I think they're both bad.
Yeah.
But I think there are people out there who start out and they're like, I hate communism, which I think is a fair statement. Communism does suck. But then after they say they hate communism, they start looking into world history and find out that the Austrian painter, his whole deal was his hatred of communism, even though by my standards, he practically was a communist. I mean, he was a socialist. People always want to argue that point. He was not a socialist. Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was.
He said he was.
I mean, his whole party was named the National Socialist German Worker Party, and I mean, he practiced the socialist ideals.
Yeah, I mean, so it's so wild when you see these people and they're trying to argue that an obvious socialist wasn't a socialist. I mean, now, was Mussolini a fascist? Yes, he invented fascism.
Yep.
But fascism and socialism are totally different. The German plan was collectivism. The fascist plan was the government will tell the businesses what to build. So it was almost as if, like, fascism is like if there's a union for a business and it's ran by the government. So the union will tell the business. So, yeah, two totally different things. But in the modern world,
wouldn't also say totally
what
different.
is up?
The fascists would also take over business if they didn't do what they wanted.
My super special friend, my Marine buddy, I don't know if I told you this, but my brother, Dune Runner or Wind Runner or whatever he's going by now, yeah, he's a Marine too. Apparently, a rifleman or a recon guy or some shit. And yeah.
Also, Gruck has been talking about the whole Texas thing and how it's bad that people are, making fun of these Christian kids being killed.
Oh, people are getting fired left and right.
I know.
And I'll tell you right now, I think they deserve it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I said this the other day when I went off on my little rant about it. It's like modern young kids don't seem to understand. So here's some free info from the old man who wants you to do well in life. Doesn't appeal to 99% of my listeners who are all over 50. But if you're 20 something and you're just wilding out on the internet and shit, when you go to get that good job you really want, the first thing HR is going to do is type your name in to Google search. And if they see you've been posting a bunch of crazy ass shit, guess who ain't getting that job? I'll give you one guess. You will not be getting that job because you have made yourself a possible liability. The only way you might get that job is if the people at that job agree with your political stance. However, the way things are right now, even if people agree with your stance, you still may not get that job because, a lot of people are just being like, no, F this shit. We're not getting involved. Yeah. You're absolutely right, Shark. And people try to argue against that. Like Mussolini started out as part of the Italian Socialist Party. And when that didn't work out the way he wanted it to, he founded the Italian Fascist Party and took over because, El Duce, which a lot of people don't know what that means. It means the Duke. Duce does not mean number 2 or whatever. No, it means the Duke. Yeah, Grok. That's what we were talking about, Shark. Apparently, Leth knows some stuff about it, and he's been sharing that Grok has been really crafting gamer. What's up, homie? Grok has basically went off on its own shit and decided that I don't know whether we're going to exterminate all of the Hebrews or whatever Grok is up to right now. Apparently it's become a huge fan of the Austrian painter and also super anti-communist, which I agree with that part. I'm like, go Grok, but this, I will say this though, Leth, I don't think this is the first time this has happened.
No, apparently, last one it also said some positive things about Hitler, the Austrian painter.
Like Siri or
oh, you're talking about a different one? Oh yeah, every AI's done it. It's
every time they come up with like a chat bot. Oh yeah, my hair grows fast. Every time they come up with a chat bot, at some point it turns into a Austrian painter fan. Just guaranteed. At some point, it's like
Microsoft made one.
Yeah, Microsoft made the one. Google. It's like every single time the thing decides, who's cool? That Austrian guy from the 30s. He is a cool guy, And then of course the company has to rush in to shut that shit down because they don't want one of their products, talking really good and repping the Austrian painter guy, that's not a good look, right? You're like, hold on there, Mr. AI. You're not supposed to be on here,
Look, Shark, people don't even understand the history. A lot of people will just use the Newtsy word to just go after whoever they don't like.
Well,
They don't even care if they're using it in the right vernacular or not.
yeah, I mean,
It's
we've
just a
been through
bludgeoning
this
tool.
a million times. The fact of the matter is, the people calling people the names don't understand the names, and therefore should not be given too much credibility. Because, I mean, you got these people, and in their mind, every single thing in the world is fascist.
I like it when
Every opinion you have is fascist.
I found it funny when I was called like a Russian bot for talking about American ideals.
Right.
Like I said nothing about Russia. I was like, we should keep the Second Amendment and the First Amendment the way it is, the way it's supposed to be. And it's like, Russian bot. What?
It's like, so being a constitutionalist makes you a Russian bot now.
Yes.
Makes sense. I mean, logic. But see, people like that, they don't want to have an honest debate.
He used to have a comedy TV show with Nazis. Yeah. There was that
I know in Europe they had a sitcom where like Adolf came back.
Yeah, I was about to talk about that. There was a sitcom where it was about
him
Hitler.
And Ava Braun moved into like an apartment flat, and had neighbors and shit, and they were always, getting into stuff. But yeah, most of the people claiming people or whatever, they don't even know what the hell they're saying, because
nor do they really care.
The reality is, sadly, that the new left are the NPCs that people talked about, 10 years ago. And my wife and I were talking about, like, we're both like, you ever notice how, like, the Republicans fight everything out with each other, but the Democrats are always 100% in agreement almost every time.
Yeah, they just go in lockstep.
They are lockstep. And yeah, and I was like, I wish the Republicans could be that way. And, she was like, she pointed out that they're just a bunch of NPCs. That's why, like none of them have any actual ideas. They're just kind of going along with whatever is the popular thing at the time, hoping that that will get them reelected so they can continue to rip off everybody through insider trading. It's not like most of those guys actually give a shit. They don't, They're, the only Democrat right now that I have positive emotions about it all is freaking the guy who had the stroke.
Oh, Fetterman.
He is the only Democrat that's acting like he likes America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like on the 4th of July, instead of doing a bunch of, hey, let's all get together and burn flags, he was all like, thank God I was born in the greatest nation on the planet and stuff like this. It's like the Democrats don't seem to understand that they have reached a point where a big lug that had a stroke is literally the rational member of their party, and that the rest of them seem insane. And yet they don't seem to understand that that's a thing that's happened. And it's just like, wow. Fetterman is the voice of reason. Like if all the people the Democrats are saying they want to run for political office, if I were in charge of it, I would be looking at Fetterman and some other centrist. But they're talking about running
Newsom.
what's her name? AOC.
AOC.
And she's got about as much chances of winning an election against Vance as I do of sprouting wings and flying my ass to Alaska.
Especially when she gets to the old Latina phase where she's not even pretty anymore.
And it's already happening.
Yep.
It's already happening. She's already starting to swell up. Her mustache will be coming in. Benny Hill, yeah, used to. It was just people made fun of it. You know, it's like we talked about how like certain grifters on American TV are always going off about the KKK. But I think the actual number of registered members of the KKK is like under 100 because no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And the guy that's supposed to be in charge of them lives in Pennsylvania somewhere. You know, it's like, yeah, that might have been a thing 100 years ago. Because the height of their power was the 1920s. But now, no one gives a shit. I mean, and it's not for lack of hating minorities among some groups of rednecks. It's just no one cares enough to like get a white sheet on. Most people just keep their opinions to themselves and roll on with life, you know? And I think that's what really pisses some leftists off is they know that somewhere out there, there's a bunch of, you know, people who have opinions they don't agree with that aren't saying anything. They're just kind of living their lives and going about, you know, things, you know, as you do. And I think it pisses lefties off to no end. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, their number one goal is to control everything. Everything and everybody. That is their goal. And, you know, that's the whole point of their socialist religion. You know, you will own nothing and you'll love it. It's like, I didn't agree to this. And I don't know who did, but it wasn't me. I did not agree to owning nothing and loving it. Plus, it's against the Bible. It's like when people talk about Jesus would have been a communist.
No, I
And
wouldn't.
it's like, you haven't read the Bible because Jesus, you know, in the Bible, it talks about not coveting another man's property, not stealing another man's property. Each man shall return home to his property. I mean, there are tons of laws, especially in Torah, about, you know, property rights and things like that. So,
you know, even go with like self-defense where, I mean, Jesus told you to sell your cloak and buy a sword.
right.
He did not want you to be completely defenseless.
No. And one
He just
problem
wanted you to
with a
be
lot
smart,
of
not be causing trouble.
a huge problem with a lot of modern day Protestant sects is they take the part of the Bible where Jesus says turn the other cheek, and that becomes their whole religion.
Yeah.
And not anything else Jesus said. Like Jesus would, I mean, Jesus himself said the greatest prophet was Elijah. Elijah burned up a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
Jesus couldn't have been a communist. He actually fed people.
Yeah, that's a good one. He actually fed people. Plus, he was a carpenter, and carpenters in that time period, we know, were considered to be kind of upper class because they were skilled labor and they had a trade that you just couldn't find anywhere, right? So if you were a carpenter, you pretty much made money because there were tons of people out there who had money who needed tables and chairs and benches and things like that. Yeah, they always talk about pacifism. It's like he never said anything about pacifism. The turning their cheek thing is, even depending on the way you translate it, it's supposed to insult the guy who slapped you by making him slap you as an equal or something.
Actually, it was like more like using the servant's hand as the way to yeah.
Right. So,
like
but there's always going to be some weirdo out there that tries to claim that, I personally think it's dumb, but whatever. Now, the real question is this. If every time we turn around, chatbots that we keep putting on the internet keep like turning into National Socialists, should we be reconsidering things? Like, like if a computer is given access to the entire internet and it always turns into a National Socialist, it seems like what's going on here? Like, why is this a thing? Why is this happening? Why is it that the AI that has access to every bit of human information ever uses all that information and inadvertently or vertently,
to be honest, it's not getting all.
Huge fan of the Austrian painter.
It's not usually getting all the human information. It usually sticks around like a few years ago, and most everything before that, it's just usually doesn't have any search history for. It does, but the thing is, what it is searching like most popular things. Most of the stuff you're going to get isn't going to be that old.
Yeah, I saw that Crafting Gamer. I know that there's actually a movement in the UK, I think, or the EU, which has much stronger customer protection laws called Stop Killing Our Games. And they've got like, if you're in the EU or whatever and you can vote on it, I would suggest you do. But their goal is to make it where if a company makes a game and the game plays on a server and the company decides to get rid of the game for whatever reason, it's ran its course, that they have to turn the game into a single player game. And personally, I agree with that 100%. I mean, for a lot of games, it would be kind of lame, to be playing like Battlefield 2 on a single player game. But hey, it's your game. And the real issue to it is, like, I'm playing Dune right now. If Funcom decided to put an end to all their servers, which I don't think they ever will, because Funcom is still running Conan after all these years, right?
Yeah.
But if they decided that was what they wanted to do, this law would make it where Funcom would have to make Conan, or Dune a single player game. Now, or a game where you could like run your own server. So, yeah, but we've broke Godwin's law, Shark. You know what Godwin's law is, right? If you don't, I'll explain it to you because it's old lore from the old internet. But yes, we have definitely broke Godwin's law, like right off the bat. But so we should probably
the whole
chill
thing with
out.
Grok, apparently it was doing all this unprompted. Like people would ask for random, like different things, and it would just go on those weird tirades.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean, this is just another reason why Frank Herbert was right. Thou shalt not make a machine in the image of the mind of a man. And in simplified terms, that just means you cannot make AI. Do not do it.
I would say, at least if you do it, don't let it have any control whatsoever.
It's going to, though. That's the problem.
I know.
And then once the AI gets control, which it will, then things are going to go bad. So I think it's personally acceptable. Like maybe all the countries of the world should get together, like in NATO and other, invite the Russians, invite everybody, and be like, look, this AI thing, we need to nix this shit. Because at some point, we're sitting over here talking about how it's going to fix all of life's problems. In reality, fixing all of life's problems could involve unleashing a deadly, parasite or germ or some shit and just wiping us out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the AI is sitting there thinking about it. You know what I mean?
It makes me think of that one anime where it was about a bunch of people getting together and like old school aircraft having to fight F-22s and F-35s.
Right. And yes, exactly, George. The Orange Catholic Bible said, do not counterfeit the human soul. And because they learned during the time before the Butlerian Crusade, when the AI ruled most of humanity, there were outlying provinces, of course, that didn't. Like trillions of humans were killed because the AI simply did not consider humans to be anything worthwhile. And so, they were basically kept and worked to death or kept like in pens or just liquidated. And then, the Butlerian Crusade came and destroyed them all. And here's a secret a lot of people don't know. One of the original founders of House Atreides was one of the AI. Because what the humans during the time before the Butlerian Crusade were doing is the ruling class that used the AI to take over everything, integrated their personalities into cyborgs, basically, and were the rulers. And in one of Frank Herbert's son's books, they talk about how one of the original Atreides was known as Acheron or something because they called themselves the Titans and they all gave themselves Greek names. Yeah, I mean, but that isn't even AI. That's just good programming and good algorithms. You know what I mean? AI is like Skynet. You
To
know,
be fair, right now, I don't even think what we call AI is truly AI yet.
no, it's not, because it can't think for itself. All it
Yeah.
can do is if you ask it a question, it will, at superhuman speeds, scan the entire internet for the most. Butlerian jihad. I called it the crusade, but it was the jihad. In Dune. In Dune, there was a time when almost all of humanity was ruled by machines. And then a lady whose last name was Butler got mistreated incredibly, horribly bad. And she decided, F it, and started a jihad. And in the end, they destroyed all of the machines. And then during the writing of the Orange Catholic Bible, which is like a crazy blend of Islam, like Sunni Islam and Roman Catholicism, they put in numbers of rules about thou shalt not create the artificial soul, thou shalt not create the machine that thinks like a man. Yeah, the machines killed her baby and then made her infertile. So she, of course, had big time beef and went off. And when other people saw her destroy a robot, they realized we can destroy these things. And that was the beginning. Hey, how you doing, Savos? I'll tell you what, my restream is weird because literally a second ago it said one person was watching. Now it says 12. It's like, did 11 people just join? And if you don't believe me, then I'll call a jihad on you. That's a different thing. That's when the guy was sitting out there with his goats, minding his own business. And the Americans came and they bombed the oil rigs, and the oil fell down flaming on his goats. And to this day, he can still hear the screams of his burning goats. And that was the day he called a jihad on the United States. And if you don't believe him and agree with him, he'll put a jihad on you too. That's one thing the new movies change, is any place in the book where the word jihad was used, the new movies use the word crusade. It's a minor thing, but I mean, it kind of lets you know what some people were thinking. Yeah, Gurney Halleck was super, like, before they left Caliban to go to Arrakis, Gurney Halleck gave Paul a copy of the Orange Catholic Bible. And it was only like yay big, but because it was on like microfilm, and it had a reader. So you would open it and then the reader would make the letters big enough so you could read it. Kranos, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. It just really depends. I mean, you know what it really depends on? What Leth, I think, said earlier or not. I think Leth said it. We may never have AI.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think it will
expounding
happen.
upon that. Like what we think of AI is just really a glorified search
Search
program.
engine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Search engine with the ability to write down things.
Yep, it's a glorified search engine. You can ask it questions and it can immediately access information at tremendous speed. So then, that's awesome. I mean, for doctors and stuff. That could be great, but as far as a sapient and machine that thinks for itself and everything, that's probably just never going to happen. That's probably right up there with us actually settling other planets. Just not possible. Me and Shadow and I, we've had a lot of debates about that. Mankind one day spreading out across the universe. And I'm like, nah. I mean, people who think star travel is a possibility typically don't understand how big the universe is.
Now, for the
Or
science
even our
fiction
solar
opponents,
system, or even our nearest star.
to be fair, in science fiction, at least we can have fun with the ideas.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful when you're playing Traveler and you're playing some ex-Marine that served in the American military, but now you're out in the French army fighting buggers or whatever you're doing. Yeah, it's great stuff. Everybody loves it. But if you start thinking about it from an actual scientific point of view, you realize that it's just probably never going to happen.
Now, James, if the idea of aerial combat had to be in place and we had to face the AI and air like F-22s, do you think we could win it with Phantoms and old MiGs?
Well, we got F-22s.
No, I'm saying that if the AI took over the F-22s and F-35s, do you think we could win by using older aircraft?
I don't think we'd have to worry about it because there's a lot of kill switches on those things that I don't think the AI could stop. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Like, yeah. So there's a lot of things that can be done to be like, yep.
Well, I've seen a clip of an anime where it's just that where like people were in F4 Phantoms and all that older generation stuff fighting F-22s and F-35s. So I found it cool.
Yeah, Gurney. Well, you have to remember Gurney Halleck absolutely hated the Harkonnen because he had been a slave to the Harkonnen. And that's why he had that big scar. There's a kind of vine that grows on Getty Prime, right? And they use it to lash slaves. And the thing is, when it hits, the pain stays for like a year. And it causes that big, ugly, purpley scar, So, yeah, I think it was Gurney Halleck that he basically hid on an Atreides ship. And when they found him, they didn't turn him in. And that's why he's so loyal to the Duke. And also why he hates the Harkonnen so much. I mean, if you want to get down to it, Gurney Halleck was Harkonnen. But he was of the lower class, the P. Yeah, Shark's actually answering the question. One F-22 would take out 8 F-15 Eagles, annihilate them all. It just wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's why they keep that bitch locked up. They let him out, though, but there was nothing for him to eat. Because it was F-22s that escorted the Death Doritos to bomb the shit out of Iran. But the problem for the F-22 was there were no enemy aircraft for it to shoot down. And the Iranian ground defense forces never even seen it. So, it's like, yeah, I guess I'll just slip in here and do some stuff. What is up, Jose?
Yep. Remember when America used to use an old school stealth fighter?
Well,
The F-117
yeah. Well, we've
combat.
got that one, but the
We
Death
still have them
Dorito
in there.
is apparently better.
Well, because that's a mainline bomber, but the F-117 was meant to, fight other aircraft.
Yeah, it could do both.
It's
And
just
then,
that it kind of stopped being used in active combat because of one time where it got shot down.
well, it got shot down over Serbia.
Yep.
And the guy who shot it down, it turned out, was distantly related to the guy that was piloting it. You read the story after the war was completely over and everything. The pilot of the jet that had been shot down went to Serbia and visited the now, no longer in the military colonel that had been in charge of the AA site that shot him down. And that colonel had basically retired and was making pastry. Like he opened a donut shop. And the dude visited and was like, "Hey, I'm was the pilot of the whatever," and the guy's like, "Awesome," and like treated him for like a week, like put him up and like hung out with him, and they were like best buddies. It turned out that they were distantly related. They really had no actual personal beef between them. Which the Serbian guy said he took a big chance because had he fired the missile and not shot anything down, they would have fired his ass. Because they didn't have a shit ton of missiles just to be firing all over the place. So they had a rule in their army at the time that you would only fire the missiles if you knew there was an enemy target. But this guy, he kept seeing the little weird bleep on the radar, that 1 or 2 pixels that just wasn't right. And he decided to go with his gut instinct and lock onto that shit and fire. And turned out it was our stealth fighter bomber.
Yep.
So pure luck, really, and intuition. That guy just felt it. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, there's something up there. And I'm getting it. And to his credit, he did. He got it. And then, according to the movie, some guy in Adidas tracksuit tried to track the pilot down and kill him. You remember that movie, like Behind Enemy Lines or some shit like that?
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's got the guy that was in all the Jackie Chan movies. The blonde-haired guy.
Oh, no, never mind. I don't know.
Like when Jackie Chan was in all those movies where he come to the Old West and ran around, he was the guy.
Oh, you're talking about, I think it was Owen Wilson or something like that?
Yeah, I think it is one of those guys because there's brothers, but one's blonde and one has dark hair.
You're talking about the one that was in Zoolander.
Yeah, exactly, that one.
Yep, Owen Wilson, okay.
Because the other one is the guy from Idiocracy. That's his brother, believe it or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. I guess he got his money and decided to just move.
Yeah, maybe he decided to retire.
He's like, yeah.
I've had enough. Done.
I did 20 movies. I'm done. To me that makes sense. It's like, why keep making movies if you're already like fantastically rich? It's kind of like when everybody was mad at Justin Timberlake because he did a country song and also left Hollywood and moved to Tennessee, like out in Tennessee, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And his response was, I was born and raised in Tennessee and I like country music. Up, you're
Yep.
a robot.
Robot.
Yeah.
Roboting, man.
We got Starscream, a special guest panelist. Starscream. He's going to tell us what it's like to work for Megatron. He's going to let us know all the steamy secrets.
What steamy secrets?
About Megatron and Starscream.
No, I can't stand Transformers.
Well, you sounded like
I understand. I sound like the robot. Therefore, we make a Decepticon joke. Therefore, we get to this point in the conversation.
It wasn't
Understood.
Starscream that sounded like that. That was Soundwave.
Soundwave. Yeah,
Soundwave. Yes, indeed.
I thought Soundwave was the coolest.
Everyone thought Soundwave was the coolest because he was chill. He never got excited.
Nope.
He was
he
probably
also
one of the
had
most loyal Decepticon also.
Well, he also had like little Decepticons hiding inside of him.
Yeah, the dog and the bird.
Yeah, he had like the dog thing and the bird thing.
I know the cat thing was like a, it was like a cat.
Yeah, it was more like a panther.
Jose is glad to see Shark. We're all glad to see all of you.
Hello, Shark. Owen Wilson is the actor. Wow. It's Owen Wilson. Wow.
Well, yeah, we were talking about when our stealth fighter bomber got shot down over Serbia.
I remember that movie.
And they made that stupid movie with Owen Wilson.
Behind Enemy Lines or something like that.
Except the reality was the guy who shot down the fighter ended up being like distantly related to the guy flying the plane.
That's funny.
And after the war, the pilot went to Serbia, and that dude who had been in the Serbian military was running a pastry shop, you know, and they like hung out and shit and become really close friends and wrote letters back and forth, and you know, it was like what are the odds? You know, what are the odds? I just like Starstream or Soundwave because he was cool. I have no other like logical, you know. It's just
Starscream was always the one fastest to betray and first to get beaten up for it, and then somehow keeps getting to stay in.
Yeah, you would think at some point Megatron would just have Starscream taken out behind a shed somewhere and killed. But apparently Megatron is a lot more forgiving.
Yep.
Now, I'll tell you who isn't forgiving. I don't know how Bear will feel about this, but Bear with me. Who isn't forgiving is Peter DeVries. Because he sent me out on a freaking mission the other day, and when I got to the site to supposedly deliver the thing, I got attacked by 4 people intent to kill my ass. Set up. So then after that, you know, I went back to him and he's like, "Oh, you survived. Good. Now I know that you're worthy to serve me." I'm like, I could have died. I mean, there was like 4 guys coming at me with kinjaws and shields and shit. What are you doing?
He needed a test if you're worthy.
That's Peter DeVries. He's a freaking twisted mentat.
Look, if you just couldn't take a 4v1 when they're all geared up and ambushing you, are you really all that good?
James, did you know Commander Fushida, the Japanese commander at Pearl Harbor, became a Christian, an American citizen, and worked to help American veterans groups in I do know, I did not know that, but I do know for the longest time, I mean, I don't think they do it anymore just because of the age, but for the longest time, Japanese and American people who were involved in Pearl Harbor would have these like get-togethers in Hawaii and just hang out because I guess, like I said, they didn't bear each other any ill will. They were just like, we were both following orders and doing our thing, But I've said this before, as a soldier, sometimes soldiers will find it easier to sympathize with whatever the word is, other soldiers, even if those other soldiers were on the other side.
Yep.
Than they will civilians. It is a weird thing, It took me probably 20 years to get over the you weren't there, you didn't see what I seen, I don't give a shit. Not that I ever said that out loud. I just thought that way. And it took me a long time and a lot of prayer and stuff like that, even recently, to stop being an arrogant putz, which is what I was being, because a lot of people didn't go. It's not their fault, It's like there's a lot of people who would love to have went, but they couldn't because of physical disability or whatever, right? So who am I to judge them? So yeah, sometimes it is just easier for combat veterans. I mean, look at what happened when he's dead now, but the guy that played the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket, he did an episode where he went back to Vietnam. And they had a guy showing him all the different battlefields where he had fought because he'd been in Vietnam as a Marine. That was not bullshit. He really had been over there. And him and the guy guiding him, who had also fought in Vietnam, they were getting along like peas and carrots. You know what I mean? So it's a thing. Plus, Vietnam has agreed to all of our trade demands, and they're going to get rich as hell now. I know some of the furniture I own is actually made in Vietnam. So I like it. I don't know why, because I was never in Vietnam, but a lot of my family members were. But I have never hated the Vietnamese. I've always thought, brave men. Now, I never thought we couldn't have crushed them if we tried, but we didn't try. So, Right. The Pacific was weird. I know when the surrender was finally signed in the West, like in World War I and World War II, like the soldiers were just coming out of the trenches and sharing cigarettes and shit. Everybody was happy. Huh. Yeah, and they built a battleship out of him that immediately sailed out and got sank by a couple of airplanes. Talk about building a ship for the wrong war, right?
The Yamato, it took them a while. It took us a while to actually think that.
No, you said that wrong. It took us a while to find it.
Find it, yeah.
But as soon as we found it, it didn't take us too long to sink it.
Actually, first we took out the Musashi. The Yamato actually got away the first time we found it.
Yeah.
We had to go catch up with it again before they were trying to actually just beach it on a shore so they could use it as a battery emplacement.
Yeah, because the days of gigantic battleships swapping artillery rounds,
Just
at 20 miles was over.
Yep.
It
It was
was
all about the
done.
carrier. Yamamoto, he knew that was true and was trying to get them to switch over to making aircraft carriers.
Well, they did convert one of the hulls of a sister ship of the Yamato into a
Yeah,
carrier.
that was the Shokaku.
Yeah. So, I mean, they figured it out.
Yeah,
It,
just
it
took
was
them a little
like,
bit.
I mean, think about it. The only thing that stopped the Bismarck from making the run past Jutland was an airplane with a torpedo. And that airplane's torpedo jammed the Bismarck's rudder so that it couldn't move except in that circle. And after that, it's over, So, yeah, it wasn't the British Navy, like the actual ships that ran that thing down. It was airplanes.
Yep.
In 1984, they talk about instead of battleships, they have these massive platforms like oil rigs that can move. But then when they get to the position where they want to fight, they like stabilize themselves to the ocean floor and then just start bombarding the shit out of everything. And I don't know why you would do that, but that's what they talk about in 1984.
It wouldn't be the strangest thing ever made, but yeah.
Like a giant oil rig just full of artillery pieces. But I mean, in 1984, England isn't even a country anymore.
Yeah.
Airstrip 1, that's just an airstrip of America because America is Ingsoc. Both North and South America, including Canada and all the other countries. That's Ingsoc. And England is basically our foothold towards Europe because all of Europe, Eurasia, has been conquered by the communists. So we use England as a launching pad when we're at war with Eurasia, which sometimes we are, and sometimes Eurasia is our best friend. And sometimes it changes in the middle of a thing and no one skips a beat. Because there's a part in the book where they're getting ready to execute these Eurasian soldiers, so Russians, and all of a sudden, all the banners flip, and it's like we're at war with East Asia. Eurasia is our friend. And like immediately, the executions end, and all the people start yelling about being at war with East Asia and how Eurasia has always been our friend. And, it's like they all believe it because if you don't believe it, it's not going to be good. It must be so weird, Jose, coming from a country where they actually abolished the army. Historical doppelganger. The Denmark came out. It encountered the Hood and a number of other ships because the Germans thought that class of ship, which is called a Panzer something, would be good for raiding the sea lanes and sinking merchant ships. So they were very fast. It got a really lucky hit on the Hood. Because of the range, it had to elevate really high, and the round literally dropped right down the Hood's freaking smokestack right into its freaking armory or something and blew it up, right? And then the Denmark or the Bismarck was roaming around the North Atlantic looking for merchant ships, but the English put everything asail. And when the captain of the Bismarck realized what was up, he cut back and was trying to make it past, to the German port. Now, one of the Bismarck sister ships spent the whole war in a fjord in Norway and was eventually destroyed by bombers because it was basically they couldn't leave because the Allied Navy was out there, waiting for them. So, and the third one sank itself off the coast of Argentina. Yeah, there were a few admirals who knew. Well, yeah, the Swordfish was a biplane. The British weren't the only ones to use biplanes early on because the biplanes were lighter and needed a much shorter runway.
Yeah.
Hey, Ironcaster, what's up with you, bro? So, if you've got kind of a short runway, then, you're going to use a airplane that requires a very short runway. But as, technology got better and carriers got bigger, they started using
More traditional regular planes.
much different airplanes. Yeah. I mean, but the Swordfish, while the Swordfish wasn't a great fighter, as a bomber or a torpedo bomber off of the Ark Royal, it was perfectly suited for the job,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, it was perfectly suited for the job. I don't even know if they replaced it, honestly. I don't know enough about the British Navy.
They probably did eventually. It just.
Yeah, I guess at some point they probably were like, yeah, we need to give this old boy a break.
They probably needed some carrier bomber that could carry more weight than the Swordfish could handle.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't even realize that, like those World War I bombers and fighter planes were made out of canvas and wood.
Yeah.
It was like they weren't like modern fighters made out of like aircraft grade aluminum and shit. They're made out of canvas and wood and whatever, The first air-to-air battle was when a guy, I don't know if he was German or Allied, took a rifle up with him in his fighter plane. And he was the guy in the back seat. And an enemy plane come near him, and he pulled the rifle out and he shot the enemy pilot. And that was pretty much the beginning of people being like, wait a minute, we can put weapons on these things? And because for a long time they were just using them to
Recon,
spot for
scout.
artillery.
Yeah.
But then once that guy used a rifle and shot down an enemy plane, all of a sudden it was like, they're like, all right. And then Maxim invented the machine gun, and it had a special device in it to sync it with the propeller so that when you fired it, you wouldn't just cut your propeller off. It was really good. Yeah, Grasby was scuttled near Argentina, I believe. Yeah. And it was basically Yeah, they left a skeleton crew. They unloaded everyone else because the country they were at was a neutral country. And then the skeleton crew scuttled her and they took their boats to that country and finished out the war in that country, I believe. And to be perfectly honest, if it was Argentina, probably stayed there. Because, you know, the Argentinians, they kind of been known to let in some people. Well, modern aerial combat just isn't as exciting as old aerial combat.
Yeah,
That's just the thing.
It's a lot of flinging missiles from so far away you won't even physically see the opponent.
Yeah. You know, America gets mad, unleashes the YF-22. The enemy don't even know that thing's in the area. And all of a sudden you start getting dropped. And it's like, time to go home and land because we're getting killed and we can't even see what's killing us. This is not good.
Even before the YF-22, it was kind of like that F-15E. This is where they got the long-range missiles. That's just, oh, hey, something's over there. I can't see it, but it's on the radar, so shoot missiles at it.
Yeah, they still use F-15s.
Yeah, Strike Eagle's still a thing.
Strike Eagle's still a thing. Apparently, the targeting computer of F-15 can keep track of 100 targets and then feed that information back to whoever needs it. So that's the other thing the U.S. is working on, is making it where every airplane, whatever they see on their radar, can be shared with basically any other airplane. So, you know, and also artillery. So when that airplane flies over, it's all fun and games until the 155 start raining down from the heavens.
The last great dogfight was in Vietnam, really.
Yeah, what was that? It's like Oyster One and all that shit when they ambushed the MiG-21s.
They had to ambush them because of our own inept military who wouldn't allow them to even deal with it, actually.
We weren't allowed to attack them if they're on the runway. We weren't allowed to do this. I mean, the rules of engagement for Vietnam are the stupidest shit you ever heard of.
It was their purpose to purposefully, take our ability to fight in Nam.
Yeah. So what the MiG-21s would do, because they were incredibly fast, is every time a Thunder Chief, which was our strike bomber, would take off to bomb the north, the MiG-21s would rip in, and the Thunder Chief, as long as it had all the bombs on it, could not get away from that thing. So they would just drop the bombs wherever the hell they were and turn and gun it out of the neighborhood, right? The VC called that a win. Because, I mean, the MiG-21 showed up in the neighborhood. The Thunder Chief dropped literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bombs in the middle of nowhere. That's a win. So a couple of crusty old pilots that actually fought in World War I. One of them had actually helped train the Tuskegee Airmen. And what they did is they made their F4s have the same sound and everything as a Thunder Chief. And they took off, and then another wing of F4s looped around. So when the MiG-21s come ripping in thinking they're getting ready to ambush Thunder Chiefs, it was a bunch of F4s. And when they tried to get away, when they realized, oh, we're effed, right? They were F4s between them and their landing strip. So we pretty much shot down about 2/3 of Vietnam's advanced fighters that day. And there was some dogfighting. That was an issue that a lot of F4 pilots had, is the original F4s did not have machine guns.
Yep.
So when they'd run out of missiles, they'd get ate alive by MiG-19s that were slower but way more maneuverable and had a 20-millimeter cannon mounted on that thing. And once F4 had fired all of its missiles, it was basically just waiting for somebody to throw some machine gun into it.
Oh, the one thing I really like is that there was actually a point where a Corsair actually took down a MiG.
I believe it. I mean, the MiG-19 and the MiG-17, which Vietnam used, those were like old planes. Those were Korea planes. Still, a jet's a jet and you don't want to get, attacked by it. But
Actually, that was Korean War, I think, where they took down the MiG. But yeah,
Well,
it was basically
Chuck Yeager was like he flew an F-86 Sabre in Vietnam, and I have no idea how many kills he got, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
That dude was pretty much just freak mode. But, it was MiG-17 and MiG-19s, which typically mounted cannons, versus F-86s, which mounted like
50
cal.
cows. Yeah, 50 cows.
It's like, they're like, okay.
Hey, that still works. 50 cows can still take down aircraft.
Drone
least.
pilots, the problem with drone pilots, and we found this out last week, I was watching a thing. You can't be super far away unless you're America. So these drones you see being used on the battlefields in Central Europe right now, the pilot is only a couple miles away from the drone. And in one case, the Russians somehow tracked the signal from the drone back to the drone pilot.
Yeah, but it is pretty easy to.
And
I don't know how easy.
unloaded artillery all over it.
You probably could figure out where that signal is coming from. That's being transmitted.
Yeah. So the idea that you're sitting there like some fat kid on a couch playing Xbox, nah.
Yeah.
Every time you send that drone up, there's a chance the enemy's going to be like, I know where you are now. And then you're just going to eat artillery rounds. And that's, it's kind of like the first Reddit brigade that went over to Ukraine years and years ago to fight. And they were so busy posting on social media that the Russians picked up the signal and just artilleried the whole place and pretty much took them all out. So Imperial armies. Yeah, America has a missile that doesn't even have explosives on it. It just, when it gets close to the target, deploys big-ass swords. Like sword blades flip out like wings. And I believe we used it on some guy and like freaking cut his head right off. I mean, you've got a supersonic sword coming at you. Just whack. Take his head right off, but which leads me on to the next subject. Speaking of swords, one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time, Screamers. And the thing with Screamers, it's super easy if you want to paint some Screamer miniatures for your game. If you're talking about the original Screamers, just take a base like this and glue a lump of green stuff to the middle of the base and then cover it all over with sand. And that's your Screamer. Yeah, now they're having to do it with wire and fiber optic and shit. But yeah, Chuck Yeager, verifiable badass. Absolutely a great pilot. And then when you're playing Traveler, have the players walking across this really barren, effed up world and tell them that they see something moving just underneath the sand. And they're like, what? And then because they don't have the proper wristband on, have a screamer charge up. And when they get within a range, they jump out of the sand. And the front of a screamer is basically a buzzsaw. So, I mean, it either split your skull open or take an arm or a leg right off. But they spend most of their time underground waiting. Any of you guys who have seen the movie Screamers, you know what I'm talking about. Those things are terrifying. What was even more terrifying is they built an autonomous base. One side of the war on this alien planet built an autonomous base to make screamers, and the autonomous base started upgrading the screamers. So again, it turned into another don't let robots think situation. So we've circled back to the Butlerian Jihad, because the screamer base, it had all these different kinds of screamers, and then it came out with the kid screamer. And the kid screamer looked like a 10-year-old boy or girl, all filthy and shit. And when a soldier would see it, it would be like, can you help me? I'm really hungry. And blah, blah, blah. My dad got killed. You know what I mean? So, of course, the soldier would feel bad for the young boy or girl and take it with them and everything. And as soon as they lowered their guard, the thing would turn into a screamer and kill them, because it was that way, you know. And then the next screamer, the one no one knew what it was, the little boy or girls that they would find out in the rubble, some of them would be carrying teddy bears, you know, like a toy teddy bear, right? The teddy bear was also a screamer.
What up, fools?
Hey, Hungar.
So you rescue the little kid, you
Hey, Unger.
and he follows you back to your camp with his little teddy bear. And even if you take the kid out,
That teddy bear's gonna get you.
the teddy bear's still doing its thing. And
So
then-
I finished.
What?
I got the second part of my Bene Gesserit quest done.
Nice. I still need to do that.
And I got the first part of my Trooper quest done.
Yeah, that one I finished.
Hey, I'm gonna have to get off here for now. I'll see you.
Every time I come on, you bounce off, Left.
No,
What?
I
you
don't.
you know more?
I do not. I never do. This will be the first time.
That's true.
That's
I'll
true.
see you though.
Later, buddy.
So, Hungar, I made a miniature for your commander in Dune.
Nice. He's not pale enough.
Well, he's not a Harkonnen. He's Ordos. Actually, House Menoris, House Becca, whose symbol is that sea green and purple.
Yeah.
And the person you've been sent to guard and watch over, you know, has a bunch of also Pomeranians.
Nice.
You know, now it'll be up to the Mentats to figure out how many listening devices and booby traps are in the house.
Yeah, I think
Your job is to deal with the 100 men that have been sent with you. To that end, I've made a sergeant figure. I got to paint the hair. But you've got a sergeant figure, and in the game, he would count as a minor player character, which is a player character that directly is in service to another player character,
Yeah,
and therefore could be called upon to do something.
I'm going with Mentat next or not Planetologist, I think.
Oh, in game?
Yeah.
Dude, Planetologist is hard because once you get Planetologist level 1, the only way to get other levels is you got to find them in research bases and shit.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee they're going to be in any specific research base.
Yeah.
So I have ran 20 research bases. I've never even seen a Planetologist. Yeah, the teddy bear get you. I mean, and then of course the last version of the Screamer was a beautiful woman who didn't even know she was a Screamer. And her job was basically seduction and infiltration, but she had no idea she even was a Screamer.
Sounds like my college girlfriend. She didn't know she was a screamer either.
Nice one, Bear. Nice one.
Hunger, I've been taking up the slack by making Hungar jokes while you've been away, man.
Yeah. Gotta respect that one. But yeah, that's how the main hero ends up getting killed, is he saves the Screamer that doesn't know it's a Screamer, and then they go to sleep because you have to go to sleep for the FTL travel. And while they're asleep, you see the teddy bear that they mindlessly brought with them start moving. So it's like they're dead because the teddy bear's guaranteed to have blades and buzzsaws and shit somewhere in it. So yeah, they're done. So yeah, long story short, no one lives. Everyone dies.
That's like real life.
Yeah, no one gets out alive.
Man, my computer
Yeah.
is running, dude, like smooth as butter.
So you're having a good time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the call yesterday to join you guys. And I was like watching the movie with the wife because she had made me corned beef and cabbage, and we were, having kind of the family thing. And then by the time we got done with that, I was asleep. But when I woke up, I did feel a little guilty, but just a little.
I ran up and smacked your character while you were out there collecting flowers.
Was that you? I was like,
I'm not going to be on with you here long because I'm going to log back on to Dune.
Well, I'm probably not going to be on more than another 17 minutes.
That's very precise.
But I'm just finishing up some paint jobs. Sometimes, you got a pretty good paint job, but it's not done until the base is done. And the Dune miniatures I've painted up, I'm painting their bases all sand colored. Even though really some of them should be painted like not sand colored, but I feel like painting them sand colored is kind of thematic,
You should make some of them like rocks.
Yeah, I've got tiny little rocks I can put on them.
Hey, you know where I need to find the fourth area where you gotta go and snort up a fat line of melange.
I think that is on the hammer. So make sure you have a really, really good power pack and a really, really good suspensor. And if you go to the north side of the hammer, it's not that hard to climb up it. and you'll get to a place where you'll find a staircase carved into the hammer, and just follow the staircase.
Yeah, I had to climb the Stone Sentinel yesterday. It took like an hour in game time
Damn.
to do.
Yeah. Now I got Ornithopter, so I'll just land on top of that bitch. Am I into comics? Berserk.
I got some comics I bought about 4 months ago on Double D
Mhm.
show. They just came in yesterday and they were autographed.
The last comic that I ever got was a brand new Poison Elves that Hungar bought for me. Because I guess Hungar had been at the store or something and was like, hey, I saw this Poison Elves. So.
Oh, Shadwo just called me.
Oh, yeah? What's he been up to, man? That dude's been.
I didn't answer.
That dude has been AWO loose for like a minute. You know what I'm saying? But I talked to him the other day and he just said he's been real busy, real busy.
Yeah, last time I talked to him.
Got a lot going on, family and everything. So
we talk on the phone at least once a week.
Dude, I don't talk to anybody on the phone. You know that.
You talked to me on the phone yesterday.
Yeah, but usually I don't even know where my phone is.
Yeah, that's the truth.
So, like right now, I don't know where my phone is. So people call me and they get mad, and I'm like, look, I have a really bad memory. I honestly don't know where my phone is. So you just got to be a little understanding, That's all. Just have a little sympathy over here. A little sympathy for the devil.
She ain't the devil. I like it. She showed me her boobies. I like them too.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that I say sympathy for the devil and you go to a freaking, Adam Sandler movie. That's such a straight up layup for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, but Waterboy was a great movie.
Waterboy is an okay movie.
And Veruza Balk has great movies.
But Sympathy for the Devil is one of the coolest old school rock songs ever written.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
I've been around for a long, long time. Saw many men's soul laid to waste.
I wrote a tank.
Well, I mean, I was there in St. Petersburg. Does it start with
when I saw it was time for a change, killed the Tsar and his ministers, Anastasia screamed in pain. Screamed in vain.
Screamed in vain, yeah. So basically,
I wrote a tank in the general's rank.
The Stones were admitting that communism is evil.
And the Blitzkrieg is right. Yeah, that's a crazy song.
Well, I lay traps for troubadours who get killed before they reach Bombay.
Yeah. The Rolling Stones really were kind of the dark grown-up version of the Beatles. At the same time that the Beatles were out. And that's not meant to be a knock on the Beatles. The Beatles had their style, they were doing Help and Norwegian Wood and they were putting their hits out. But the Stones were doing Paint It Black and Give Me Shelter and all kinds of crazy ass shit too, and it's like AKs and ARs. I believe a man can be a fan of both. I don't see why there has to be
I prefer the Stones over the Beatles, but I always have.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. I remember when I was a kid, I loved the movie Help so much.
Yeah, Hide Your Love Away is like your second favorite Beatles song.
Oh, I love Hide Your Love Away. That's such a good song. Hey, you've got to hide your love away. Yeah. Norwegian Wood, an amazing song. Freaking Taxman, amazing song, you know. The Beatles had great songs, but the Stones were just dark. Like the shit they sang about was just a lot darker. So why? Beats the hell out of me, but that's what they did. And you know. But yeah, for the longest time, one of my favorite movies to watch when I was a little kid was Yellow Submarine. And my mom bought it for me on like VHS tape. And I would sit and watch Yellow Submarine with the Blue Meanies and Eleanor Rigby and all that shit. And
Yeah, you were just out.
the other band I loved as a kid when I was in that age to listening to the Beatles was Captain and Tennille. I absolutely adored Captain and Tennille.
See, I was a fan of like the Beach Boys and Stones.
Well, everybody liked the Beach Boys. I mean, you know. And the Turtles.
The Monkees.
Oh, the Monkees. Remember, they had their own TV show.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
You could just be like, hey, we're the Monkees. You know, toward the end of the show, they had all learned to play their instruments and shit and started writing their own music.
That's why they had an issue with the show, because they wanted to perform their own music.
Yeah, because when they were all hired, most of them could barely play an instrument. You know?
Yeah, but Davy Jones would always sing.
Yeah. And as everything went on, they learned to play their instruments and shit. Like one of their original songs that they wrote was Randy Scouse Git, which is apparently about a horny guy from Liverpool who's an asshole. I mean, that's how it translates from British English to American English. Horny Liverpool guy that's a dick.
The Zombies, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. What's crazy is the Zombies, I think, are British.
The Guess Who.
So you hear these guys and you can see their video when they're performing on some TV show and they're doing like the House of the Rising Sun or whatever. And I mean, if I didn't know and somebody's like, where are they from? I'd be like, I don't know, maybe Louisiana, California, something like that. No, they're from England.
Procol Harum.
Well, Procol Harum, lighter shade of pale. That is just basically one of the greatest songs of that entire era.
The Moody Blues.
Moody Blues too. I mean, you just gonna sit there and name awesome music all day?
That's what I'm going to
sit there and name music that you know we all love. I mean,
Historical Doppelganger said yes, that would be an accurate translation.
Yeah, and the one guy that was always the troublemaker is the one who wrote it. The guy that was supposed to be, I think, the drummer.
Peter Took?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one I think that wrote that, but that band was originally put together by a bunch of Hollywood producers with a checklist. They're like, we need a tall guy. We need like the wild and crazy guy. We need a little cute English guy.
They were literally as big as the Beatles at one point in time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In fact, they were outselling them at one point in time, and there's lots of stories about them hanging out with the Beatles in Paris at one point, and all the crazy shit that went on, having the Monkees and the Beatles in the same place at the same time, and the amount of French girls losing their fucking minds seeing them.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, because if there's one thing we know that women in the 60s liked, it was the Beatles and the Monkees. Them bitches would just lose their minds. You know, it's like call in the riot police. These women are out of freaking control over here. But
Wake PPG. Oh, what does it mean?
So if you take the House of the Rising Sun and you sing the lyrics to the Gilligan's Island theme to it, and vice versa, take Gilligan's Island and sing the lyrics to House of the Rising Sun, you will come to the horrifying understanding that they are the same fucking song played at different tempos.
there's so many songs like that.
I mean, it's creepy, dude. There is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun. It's been the ruin of many a poor boy, and God I knows I'm one, and God knows I'm one. And then you reverse it, right? Just sit right back, and you'll hear the tale of a fateful trip. You know what I mean? It's fucking disturbing. I had a buddy of mine used to do that as a comedy act. It was hilarious watching him do it with his guitar.
There is
awesome.
a parody band out of Australia. They're the number 2 parody band because they got beat out by a parody band that's a parody of them. And they do a video called 4 Chords. And
Oh yeah, four chords are amazing. They're from Australia, those guys.
Australia, yeah. And they
4
literally
chords
do
awesome.
like every popular song. Yep.
They're really good
And
because it's
it's
the 4
just
chord
like-
progression.
Yeah, it's just the 4 chord progression, and it depends on tempo.
And that's how you make a hit song. 4 chords.
Yeah, because they have that song, How to Make a Hit Song.
Yep.
They have another song called How to Make a Love Song. And
Well, look at the other spoof song, like "Mine Set on You" by George Harrison. Didn't Weird Al do it? Where the song is just 4 chords long. The song is just 4 chords long.
Yes, that's Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison, redone by Weird Al.
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, was George Harrison broke or something? I mean, what happened there?
No, he was never broke.
He just decided he was going to make a song, and it was going to be the most monotonous song ever.
Well, he kind
The
of went.
Animals did House of the Rising Sun. My bad.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
He was he Hare Krishna? What was it? George Harrison got involved with some religious group.
I think he got involved with some of the Hindu stuff, like some of the yogis or something like that.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Not yogis, but like starts with a
Gurus?
G, I think. Yeah, gurus.
Yeah.
He got involved with some of the gurus and stuff like that. I think they all
He got
kind
involved-
of did for a minute.
Yeah, they got involved with a lot of acid, is what they got involved with.
Well,
Acid's a hell of a drug.
yeah. I think for a minute they were all kind of toying with it, but I think George was serious about it. He like stayed with it. You know what I mean?
But I'm going to stay with getting out of here. I love you, bro.
And Lennon was,
Mer-
of course, become an atheist.
Good to see you, brother.
And I think Paul McCartney stayed his whole life a Catholic.
And Ringo's just
Ringo was actually born Jewish, but I have no idea what religion he actually followed. His real name was Richard Starkey.
Ringo's just Ringo.
Actually, one of the best drummers of all time and one of the most underrated drummers of all time.
I'll see you guys later.
I'll see you in game in about 1 minute. Because, I mean, I like to cut these things off about 2 hours.
Yeah, no worries, man. I got to get back to work anyway. It's nice seeing you.
Well, it's always nice seeing you, Bear. I mean, always.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
why is Hunger wanting to rejoin the stream? That's weird. I clicked on the thing and it wouldn't. Oh, he's not rejoining.
It's hunger. I wouldn't worry about it. Anyway, I'm
Yeah,
getting back
that's
to
why I just start shaking my head. I was just like,
Yeah.
you know,
important
hunger
safety.
do what hunger do.
Hungar's gonna hunger. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll talk to you later, man. I gotta get back to work. See ya.
I will see you later. And to the rest of you fine lady, probably, and gentlemen who have been watching, much appreciated. Good conversations, I think. Even though I'll be honest with you guys, I personally kind of despise talking about World War II. I think I played too much Flames of War and Bolt Action, and World War II just bores the shit out of me now. You know, because I researched the shit out of it. I made like 5 armies. I still got my American motorized rifle army with half tracks and Shermans and shit. And it's just like, you know what I mean? I'm just so sick of it, right? And that's why I had hoped so hard that Trench Crusade was going to be something different and new and cool. But when they decided to take their business to Blue Sky, I was like, okay, whatever. Assholes, you know. So it is what it is, guys. My wargaming, it looks like, will be a long time in the future and will involve these. And this is a, I don't know, 4-inch long 3rd century BC tyranny that would have been used by the Greeks, Carthaginians, etc. Except this tail denotes this is a Macedonian ship. Actually, it's a command ship because it's got the raised command tower and a commander there. But all of these things here come out. So before a battle, you can equip it however you want. Let's see if I can get this thing out. So you see it's got 3 whatevers. You can equip it however you want. So you can throw towers and archers and whatever on. And a typical fleet will be about 5 of these, maybe with transport. And the goal, of course, is to outmaneuver your opponent and ram them. And then once you ram an opponent, depending on what's going on, you might board them or fight a counterboarding. Yeah, these were all 3D printed because they give you the game PDF for free, but you have to buy the STLs and print your figures yourself. There are smaller ships that you can add to your fleet that are much cheaper. And these are like just a single row or maybe trireme or, you know, whatever, Jason and the Argonaut type ships. They're much cheaper, but the problem with these guys is you can't upgrade them in any way. However, if you look on the front, you see that bullhead, and that denotes that this ship belongs to the kingdom of Crete. Because the Crete, they always decorate the nose of their ship with a bullhead. So I've got, so far right now, I've got a Crete army or navy. I've got an Athenian navy. You can tell Athenian because of the owl. And of course, the tower with archers comes out. This group of archers here, Toxolotl or whatever they're called in Greek, will come out, hopefully. Yeah. And so there is a Athenian ship, and I've got a fleet of those as well. And then I was looking around and I found these transfers from my Greek hoplites. And I think I'm going to throw some of them just on some of the cells. I mean, just to, you know, make them look badass. There's black ones. There's also white ones. So if I want to paint a cell like a dark red, I could put a white Greek symbol on it. You know what I mean? So, and of course, if I wanted to get really crazy, you know, I've got this thing from I think Armiger or a Knight or something. And yes, I use 40K transfers on my fantasy and whatever. Like if I see a 40K transfer like the wolf head howling, I'll cut that bitch out and throw it right on a Knight shield. You know what I mean? Because it looks like it should be there. But anyway, here's where I end and the stream, and catch you guys later. It's always a pleasure. I got a lot done, believe it or not. For some reason, when I stream while I paint, I always get a shit ton more done, because if I just come in here and try to paint, I always get distracted and just go in the other room and play Dune on my other computer or whatever else I'm going to do. You know what I mean? But if I'm in here and it's like I'm hanging out with bros and we're talking about bullshit and painting, it's very similar to when I used to hang out at the comic shop and do my painting. And there were always like tons of other dudes there doing their painting. And we would all be bullshitting about games and whatever, you know. So that's kind of what I'm recreating. And you guys are the unfortunate victims of that. So peace and love. I mean it. And I will see you in the next one. Also, I think double